Then you will see a set of Bitcoin banks. Cash App is a Bitcoin bank. Fidelity and Coinbase will be Bitcoin banks. Standard Charter and other custodians, NYDIG and Anchorage, they will be Bitcoin banks. You'll probably see 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 Bitcoin banks. The average transaction size is going to go to 2,000 and 20,000 and 200,000 and 2 million and 20 million. Maybe at some point you'll see the smallest transactions are million fiat terms. There'll be an explosion in layer 2 options. There'll be an explosion in layer 3 options. One day you'll get to the point where, if everybody with an iPhone can buy, sell, and send Bitcoin instantly on the iPhone.
Michael Saylor is a renowned American entrepreneur, business executive, and the executive chairman of MicroStrategy, a Virginia-based business intelligence and software firm. In August 2020, the firm permanently adopted a Bitcoin standard with an initial purchase of $250 million worth of Bitcoin, citing the constant debasement of fiat currencies and other global macroeconomic factors as the reasons for the decision. Since the initial purchase, MicroStrategy has continued to increase its holdings of the leading cryptocurrency by market cap. According to a recent Twitter post from Saylor, MicroStrategy has acquired an additional 11,931 Bitcoin for approximately $786 million, using proceeds from convertible notes and excess cash. Each Bitcoin was purchased for approximately $65,883. And the latest purchase brings MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings to 226,331 Bitcoin, acquired for approximately $8.33 billion at an average price of $36,798 per Bitcoin. Despite recent price movement, which has seen the leading cryptocurrency move from a peak of over $73,000 in March to its current price of $61,418, Saylor's conviction in Bitcoin is as high as ever. The MicroStrategy co-founder and executive chairman recently had a discussion with Seyr, during which he laid out the future he envisions for Bitcoin. According to Saylor, Bitcoin is the future of the global financial system. Saylor envisions a time when Bitcoin will help form the basis of the global economy and financial system after the inevitable collapse of the current fiat monetary system. With its true scarcity, the backing of the most powerful computing network in the world, and all other important attributes, Saylor firmly believes Bitcoin is going to change the world as we know it today. This means mass adoption around all corners of the world, among institutions and sovereign nations, continuous development of the Bitcoin network to accommodate more functionalities, and most importantly, rapid price gains. As we present clips from Saylor's interview, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space, and drop your comments and observations in the comment section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
There's going to be a lot of views there. Then there's 330 million companies in the world. And a few of them. There's Apple. When Apple encounters Bitcoin, and they're one of the more important companies in the world, 1 billion people rely upon them. When Apple encounters Bitcoin, I think they may look at it and think, well, wait a minute, Bitcoin, multi-signature, cloud, what if we actually make the Apple Watch a signing device and combine it with the iPhone and combine it with the third signing device on a laptop, and then we do something with the cloud and Apple becomes a bank that has hundreds of billions of dollars of assets in it, and we secure that via the Apple cloud. And I suppose if Apple does that, then Google will take a different view. Well, we don't want Apple to do that. We want that to be done in Android. And at some point, Samsung will say, well, wait a minute, Samsung phones are used for Android, and we can put the secure element in that, and we'll take a different view. And at some point, you're going to have Qualcomm say, well, wait a minute, we provide the chips that are used in these phones, and maybe our chip, maybe it ought to have a Bitcoin miner in it, or maybe our chip ought to have a secure element to store your cryptographic keys so that our chip can be the right signing device. And then you're going to have all the Chinese companies, and the Chinese government will say, well, maybe we don't want Apple and Google to do this, and we want our companies, Huawei, to do this. And so you're going to have governments that'll take a view. You're going to have companies that are going to take a view. You're going to have other companies like Block, and Block is going to say, well, we want to be better than Apple or Google, and so Block will ship the BitKey, and Block will embed Bitcoin support into Cash App, and Block will do that in the United States. But Block doesn't operate in China, and there's going to be a company in China, and they're going to think, well, maybe we'll just copy what Block does, and we'll just do it in China. And that's going to work for them because the Chinese government's probably going to make it very difficult for an American company to do what American companies do in China. So then there's going to be some people that are going to say, well, I don't want to trust a company. When you actually buy a Cold Card or you buy a Trezor or a Ledger, you're trusting a company. So what do you mean by not trust a company, right? Well, I'm not going to trust a company to store my keys. Well, so what are you going to do? I'm going to buy one of those titanium plates, and I'm going to hammer my keys on the titanium plate. Okay, well, how's that going to get shipped to you? Well, I'm going to FedEx that. You're going to trust that company? I'm going to put it in a bank, safe deposit. That's another company, right? There's going to be a whole set of people. They'll take a view that I don't trust that company, but I'll trust this, or I'll trust myself. And that's going to evolve. Right, I actually think, how does Bitcoin scale? What you're going to end up with is a set of entities that self-custody on the base layer, the OGs, Bitcoin maximalists, especially the ones with large amounts of Bitcoin, and they will self-custody. Then you will see a set of Bitcoin banks. Cash App is the Bitcoin bank. Fidelity and Coinbase will be Bitcoin banks. Standard Charter and other custodians, NYDIG and Anchorage, they will be Bitcoin banks. You'll probably see 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 Bitcoin banks, and they will be exchanges, custodians. They'll start to offer other services, maybe trading, maybe yield, maybe credit, or maybe just buy, sell, and custody.
While speaking at Bitcoin Prague earlier this month, Saylor made a bold $8 million price prediction for Bitcoin. He stepped that up during his discussion with Robin, predicting that the leading cryptocurrency will someday be worth $10 million per coin. The prediction stems from Saylor's belief that Bitcoin is the future of money and its immortality. What if I told you I could make your company live forever? Saylor asked. That's the difference between perfect money and imperfect money. Perfect money is economic immortality, while imperfect money has a short, brutal life. Saylor adds that companies that invest in Bitcoin will last much longer than those focused on what he describes as the old pseudoscience economics. According to the MicroStrategy executive chairman, economics was nothing but pseudoscience and a quasi-religious liberal art before Satoshi gave us Bitcoin. The average life expectancy of a corporation is something like 10 years, the business executive said. We're talking about eliminating corporate mortality. We're talking about stretching economic vitality easily by a factor of 10, maybe by a factor of 100, maybe by a factor of 1,000,000. During the interview with Robin, Saylor also discusses his opinions on BlackRock's IBIT and other US spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds. Unlike the growing consensus that the funds will negatively impact Bitcoin's decentralization, Saylor believes there is absolutely no cause for concern. Here are more clips from the video.
So I think you're going to see a growth in layer 2s, a growth in layer 3s. You're going to see the transactions on layer 1 get bigger. I mean, I don't think that Bitcoin scales by $22 transactions. Half the transaction, the average transaction size is going to go to 2,000, then 20,000, then 200,000, then 2 million, then 20 million. maybe at some point you'll see, the smallest transactions are, million fiat terms. I mean, in Bitcoin terms, who knows? But you'll see the transactions get much larger on the base layer. You'll see the fees will go up. The block rewards will go down. Right? There'll be an explosion in layer 2 options. There'll be an explosion in layer 3 options. One day you'll get to the point where, if everybody with an iPhone can buy, sell, and send Bitcoin instantly on the iPhone, right? You might see 1 billion transactions a day on that layer 3 network. And how will that integrate with Google and everything else? Who knows? I think there'll be layer 4s. One way that the Bitcoin is scaling right now is with the ETFs. So what is an ETF? An ETF is wrapped Bitcoin in a way. It's like I can send you a share of IBIT, and they're moving 500 million to $1 billion a day in transaction fees. So you're talking $250 billion or $300 billion a year in transactions in the IBIT network. Okay, so if I said I got an app and people are going to do $300 billion of payments on it, you would think that's scaled. Well, some people don't like certain types of scaling. They'll be like, there are Bitcoiners that don't like the idea that there's money flowing into ETFs. But what I would say is 95% of the economic benefit from the arrival of the ETFs has gone to the Bitcoiners that don't have ETFs, that disagree, right? If you disagree with the ETF, if you think that's a bad idea and you didn't buy one, you made 20 times as much money in the last 5 months as the people that disagree with you and bought the ETF. So if your enemy just gave you 20 times as much as they just got and everybody benefited, are they really your enemy? Right? That doesn't seem like it, right? Bitcoin went from 30,000 to 65, 70,000. All the people that don't like the ETFs are the beneficiaries. 95% of the Bitcoin isn't in the ETFs. In fact, if you look very closely, I think, there's maybe 1 million Bitcoin in the ETFs, but there was 650,000 Bitcoin in Grayscale before the ETFs. So there's probably only net 1%. 1% of the Bitcoin has net flowed in the ETF, but the price of Bitcoin doubled, which is worth $700 billion. So if I were looking at that, I could say, well, it looks like $693 billion of economic energy went to people that hate the ETFs because of the ETFs, right? So you see, it's not something to fear.
In other news, defunct Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox will start distributing assets stolen in the 2014 hack next month, according to a recent announcement on the exchange's website. The repayments will be made in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, starting from the first week of July 2024, and will require the rehabilitation trustee to do some due diligence before each payment goes through. As expected, the news rattled the markets, with Bitcoin prices dropping below $61,000 in the early hours of Monday. In May, the exchange moved over 140,000 BTC, worth around $9 billion, from cold wallets to an unknown address in 13 transactions for the first time, marking the first on-chain wallet movements for the first time in 5 years. After years of disappointments, the early investors that were affected will be receiving their Bitcoin at a much higher price than when they bought it. People believe many of them will be selling their Bitcoin almost immediately after the payments go through, which will negatively impact prices, even if only temporarily. How do you think the distribution of the stolen assets will impact Bitcoin and the overall crypto markets? Please drop your replies, as well as comments on Saylor's interview in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.